Hello and welcome to More to the Story with Molly White. I'm so glad you joined us again today, and we have another great show for you, and I can't wait to introduce our special guest. But before I do, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Stephen Hotze with the Hotze Health and Wellness Center, who is our sponsor for this podcast, and without him, we just couldn't make it happen. And so we're very grateful for him. And we want to invite you to be a sponsor of this podcast as well. We deliver nothing but more to the story. We tell the rest of the story that most of the story is left out, especially when it comes to the life issue. And so we want to bring that truth to our audience that is not always presented through our in our society. So if you would like to be a sponsor or would like to donate, you can go to operationoutcry.org, and there is a link on there for More to the Story of the Molly White podcast, and you can find all the information about being a show sponsor or a donor. Now I'd like to introduce Mary Browning, my co-host, and come on in, Mary, and say hello.
Hello, Molly. So good to be with you again today.
Good to see you, Mary.
Looking forward to hearing from our guest today because this is going to be a different angle, and I'll bet people are going to learn something that they didn't know today, as which we hope is every time on More to the Story. But if today something is said that triggers you and you have an emotional reaction that is out of the ordinary or upsets you, there will be some helpline, this H3 helpline at 866 721 7881. We would encourage you to call that number or go to operationoutcry.org, and there are also resources there. Thank you, Molly.
Well, thank you. And if you do have an emotional reaction or triggered by this subject, that means there's probably a wounded place somewhere inside that you need to deal with, and the Lord wants to heal you from. And so that's why we offer the helpline number, because they have people who know, understand, and can connect you to the resources that you need. So that's real important. Well, our special guest is Monica Kelsey, and she is the founder of Safe Haven Baby Boxes. And I don't know if our audience is familiar with those, but they're going to be very familiar by the time the end of the show. And so we would like to invite Monica in and her to say hello and just kind of introduce herself.
Well, good afternoon, and thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate you bringing me on so that I can share a little bit about our ministry and, what we do for women and children across this country. And so thank you guys for inviting me today.
Thank you, Monica. And I guess what we'd like to start out is just give us a little backstory, a little bit of your testimony, which led you up to being the founder of Safe Haven Baby Boxes.
So, in order for you to understand where the passion and the determination and the drive comes from, I literally have to take you back a few years to August of 1972 when a young 17-year-old girl was attacked and raped and left along the side of the road. And this was in 1972 when abortion was illegal in our country, even in the cases of rape and incest. And I'm not here to debate abortion. I'm just stating it wasn't available back then. And this child is alive today because of that. And this 17-year-old girl, she pressed charges against the man, and he was arrested and he was charged. And if that wasn't the worst of it, when her life was finally getting back to normal, she found out she was pregnant. And she was hidden for the remainder of the pregnancy. And then she gave birth in April of 1973 and abandoned her child 2 hours after that child was born, and that child was me. So I stand on the front lines of this ministry as one of these kids that wasn't lovingly and safely and legally and anonymously, placed in a safe haven baby box by a parent that wanted me. And so this is my legacy, and I am now their voice, and I'll forever work alongside these moms who choose something safe for their kids. And I'll forever work with these kids and walk alongside them and show them their worth. So that's a little bit kind of the rest of the story, or where it all began.
Okay, and so how did Safe Haven Baby Box get birthed?
Oh, wow. So, I look at my life and I think back through the years. And I think Christ had a plan from the very beginning. I mean, after high school, I joined the United States military, and that's where I got my respect. That's where I learned respect, and that's where I also got my love for firefighting. I was on the fire department on our ship, and then I got out of the military and joined the fire service and became a firefighter and a medic because Christ knew that I needed to have that knowledge that I do today, working with fire stations and hospitals across this country. And so I happened to be in Cape Town, South Africa, with a friend of mine, and we were on a speaking tour. And we were speaking at a church in Cape Town, and this was the only church in Cape Town, South Africa, that had what they called a baby safe. And there's hundreds of churches there, which is another God thing that I was at this specific church. And as I'm walking in, I look to my left and I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this and what is it used for? And they said, well, women bring their babies here at night. And I was like, get out of here. Like they just put their babies in this box. And she said, yeah. And I'm like, does this really work? And they had saved 7 babies that year. And so on the flight back from Cape Town, South Africa, on a Delta napkin, I hand drew my version of the baby box and started the uphill battle of implementing a program in America that had never been done before.
Wow, that is amazing and so good for that church in South Africa. And I think all churches need to follow suit. So when you say about getting safe haven boxes implemented, what was the process that you had to go through to start, making these available?
Well,
So
can I back up just a minute? And can we tell our listeners what a safe haven baby box is?
absolutely. So a safe haven baby box is a device that allows a parent who doesn't want or can't care for their newborn child to place their child in this electronically monitored box at a fire station or a hospital and walk away knowing that the fire department has it from there. Now, the safe haven law has been around for the last 25 years where a parent can walk into those facilities and hand these babies to, workers. And so when a parent walks up to one of these boxes, all they have to do is place their unharmed newborn inside, shut the door, and literally walk away, knowing that the fire department on the other side of that box, on the other side of the wall, is going to take care of the infant. And so the box is just an extension of the already existing safe haven law.
Okay. And so I'm going to give it a little bit more visual. So these boxes are, I know, created to be warm and safe and well protected, and they're installed in the wall of a fire station or a hospital, and that way the mother has the mother doesn't have to face anyone.
She has anonymity.
Yeah, she doesn't have to face the embarrassment or the shame of placing her baby and walking away. And so these boxes are very well protected. Once the baby is placed in the boxes, correct me if I'm wrong, and the door is closed, then it's locked. An alarm goes off and notifies either the firefighters or hospital staff, someone, that there's a baby there that needs to be tended to right away. Am I correct in that?
You're absolutely correct. And the average time for these babies in our boxes is 2 minutes. I mean, these alarms are so quick that these babies are being taken out in 2 minutes or less. The longest a child has ever been in one of our boxes is 4 minutes and 20 seconds. So you can see how fast the fire department gets to these boxes, and these infants are in the arms of these firefighters, but the mother doesn't have to face them. But she still knows that this baby's life is going to be saved because of the personnel on the other side of that box. And you look at the safe haven law, that's been around for the last 25 years, and these babies that are not being saved by the safe haven law are being left at the doors of safe haven locations. In Chicago, we had a baby not too long ago that was left at the door in a duffel bag. And so this parent went all the way to a safe haven location, but she didn't want to face them. And unfortunately, this baby died because of the weather in Chicago. And so if there would have been a baby box at that fire station in Chicago, we would be talking about a different scenario altogether. Right. But she wanted to save her child. She went there. She just didn't want to see anybody. She didn't want to talk to anybody for whatever the reason was.
Yeah, it's probably a shame and embarrassment issue. But these boxes they're insulated, they're lit, they're warm. I mean, so even if a baby's been in there for several minutes, it's insulated, it's warm, and then I'm sure the fire stations are equipped to have bottles and that kind of stuff, handy to take care of any kind of newborn that might be dropped off. So
You know
that
that
real
that's a good point because I've studied this a little bit, and Monica, you can maybe help us out a little bit. But this is mainly for newborns. Each state's time frame is a little different, but mainly we're talking about newborns. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say 95% of the babies that we have coming through the baby box program are hours old, if not younger.
Mhm.
So these are women that have carried these pregnancies to term and probably hid it, hid that they were pregnant. We hear from a lot of these parents through our crisis line, and so yeah, these babies are not very old at all. These parents are having these babies and then bringing them to us because they trust us.
So in a sense, then on the More to the Story podcast, this is really an extension of what can happen if a woman carries her child to term, but isn't really in a position to care for her child or even make a plan such as adoption.
Right. And it's so much better than choosing an abortion because that has long term regret, long term emotional and psychological and spiritual consequences. And giving birth to your baby and placing this baby in a safe haven box, if you don't want to do a public adoption and things like that, you'll know that your baby's going to be cared for. Your baby's going to be taken care of. Your baby's going to be placed in a loving home. Correct, Monica?
Yeah, we actually get a lot of notes with these babies, which I think is just beautiful that these parents take the time to write a letter. A lot of them write a letter to the baby, telling them how much they love these babies. And then a lot of times we get letters to us.
Wow.
And so thanking us for having this resource available to them. And so, at the end of the day, we're here for them. We're here to keep these babies safe, help these moms make a good, safe plan for them so that they don't have to regret this for the rest of their life. And my husband is crawling in the car behind me.
Hey,
This is
that's the
this is
You can't make this up, you guys. You can't make this up.
it's podcast on the go, and we'll just say that Monica is out
we
with her
gotta do
mom
what we
shopping.
gotta do, right? I
That's right.
I do.
my granddaughter, don't even come in here while I'm doing this.
This is reality. This is life.
This
Yeah,
is real life.
it's real life, and praise God for life. And
Yeah.
so you were, I think we were going to ask about how do you go about getting the boxes set up in a community? What's the process?
So communities are coming to us. We don't reach out to communities, which I think is just beautiful because communities are saying we want to be the hands and feet of Christ. We want to bring this resource to this community for moms, and so they're doing the work. And so when a community contacts us, we put them in contact with somebody that can help them fundraise for it, so that the city does not have to pay. 95% of our funds that come in are by donations. It's not the government paying for us to do this. It's by donations, by people who want to support us. And so, and then we have the location sign a contract. This is probably one of the most important parts of our program because this outlines what they can and cannot do. And one of the things that they cannot do is they cannot put a camera on the outside of the building on the box.
Right.
Anonymity is why this program is working so well, and we don't want to ruin that. And so these locations sign contracts stating that they will follow our guidelines and that we'll support them along the way. This isn't their program. And it's not just our program. This is a partnership between us and the fire station or us and the hospital. And then once the contract is signed and the funds are raised, then we build the box, we ship the box, we help them with the installation, we help them with the alarm, we train them. And then we do what we call a blessing of the box. And as a Christian, that's very important for me to make sure that this box is blessed before it goes active. And so once this box goes active, then it just kind of waits there, until a baby is placed in our box. And, we've had in one box, just in Carmel, Indiana, we've had 4 infants come through that box in 18 months.
Wow.
And so we never know when they're coming. Well, sometimes I guess I should say, sometimes we do know when they're coming because they do call us ahead of time to find out how to use the box or something like that. But the majority of these babies that are being left, we don't have any idea that they're coming until they arrive.
That brings up a good point. I do want to mention, Monica, you may not be able to see this because I know you're kind of on the go. This is podcast on the go for you today. But our producer has shown pictures of the boxes and showing a baby inside a box. So I just want, and there's a number on there. So if there is a mom that's coming to drop off her baby, she can make a call. But can you tell us how many babies now, or do you know how many baby boxes, Safe Haven baby boxes there are across the country now?
Yesterday, we actually blessed the 300th baby box in the nation.
Oh,
So,
Wow, awesome.
which is just a milestone for us because, when my husband and I started this journey, we just wanted to save a few babies in Indiana. I had no idea that Christ had this huge plan for me and that I would be all over the United States working to save the lives of kids in multiple different states. And so
mhm.
having the 300th baby box yesterday, um, it's very humbling. It's very humbling for us.
Well, there might be 301, right, Mary?
Well, Monica, we're planning on one in Jefferson City, Missouri, even now, and I'm excited and thankful for Safe Haven Baby Box coming to our community in the near future. So
Yes.
it's been a bit of a journey for us, and it's actually Safe Haven Baby Box makes it pretty simple for the people in the community once people are aware that it's available, that this opportunity is available to communities. And for me, it provides a focal point. While there may be a number of locations that serve as a safe haven, uh, most people don't know about it. And then for those, a lot of people don't want to go to the police station to drop their baby off. They might have a warrant out for their arrest or something of that nature, or be afraid that they could be arrested. So I'm just excited and thankful. Can you tell us how many babies that have been surrendered to the boxes and then rescued?
So total, we've had 210 babies come through the baby box program. 55 of those babies came through the boxes themselves. And I always give this number because it's so important for us to understand that we're not pushing women to boxes. We're pushing women to locations if they want to surrender.
Mhm.
And so 150 some, women have went to these locations, and a lot of them have baby boxes, and they handed the baby to a person. We were able to get them to go in, and hand the child to a person and then get a packet and then leave. And so you can see just by the numbers that our focus is not on putting babies in boxes. Our focus is getting mom help. And if they won't walk in, then we would rather have a box and not need it than need a box and not have it. Because at that point, we know what's going to happen to this infant if this mother won't walk in.
So what is in the packet for the mother?
There is a safe haven registry, which is very important. We actually just got a safe haven registry back the other day, and that is where a biological parent can send in information, ethnicity information, medical information, how the pregnancy went, anything that they want to give to this infant and this adoptive family. And some of them do give identifying information. A lot of them do not, but that's totally up to
Mhm.
them if they want to do that. Then there's also a what to look for after giving birth. These babies are not born in hospitals, and so we want to make sure that mom's taking care of herself. There is also trafficking information. That's very important in a lot of our bigger cities. And so there's information on trafficking, the state law on safe haven, so they can make sure that they're following the law. And then there's also a letter from us in there, and us thanking her because she's not going to be thanked if she tells anyone. The social media is very cruel. They're very cruel on social media. And a lot of times when somebody talks about adoption or somebody talks about safe haven surrenders, people will be like, what? Why did you do that? Why would you want somebody else raising your child? I would help you. And it's like these women want to make the decision for themselves. They don't want us shaming them or judging them or telling them what to do. And so for us, we want to thank her for making a brave, selfless decision that is saving the life of her child. And so I think we all should be celebrating that. And so that's what's we call it the orange bag. And it's kind of like iconic now because a lot of people, what's in the orange bag? What's in the orange bag? And so that is what is in the orange bag. And plus local resources too. So if there's local resources in an area, we invite the communities. Like, there was a suicide prevention organization in the last city that I blessed. And I said, bring that down. Let's get that in this bag. And so, local resources are going in these orange bags as well.
That's
That's
wonderful.
beautiful.
Because that really kind of helps women who are listening understand what the process is like. I think the important thing for our viewers and our listeners is to let other people know about this, to get educated on it, see if there's one or two or more in your community. And if not, what's the step that we would take, Monica? Would we approach a fire department? Would we approach a hospital and talk about this? And where can we get information to even approach, let's say a fire station?
Well, the problem lies with a lot of fire stations, and people in communities get excited when there's a dead infant. And I hate to say it like this, but they get excited to do something when there's a tragedy. And so we try to be proactive. We don't want you to have a dead infant in your community to make you act. We want you to act now so that we can save that child that's eventually probably going to be abandoned in your community if we can't reach this parent before that. And so we want these fire stations to contact us first. So if you are someone in the community that wants to do the baby box program and help push that in your community, contact the fire department. I mean, they see tragedy every day. And if they've had an infant that's been deceased that they've pulled from a dumpster, they don't want to do that again. And so, bring this to the community, but start there. Start at the fire stations. We also allow for hospitals. Hospitals are not as popular as fire stations. And so we're not in the business of just putting boxes in wherever. We're in the business of putting boxes where they're going to be used and where we can help these women the most. And so fire stations are always our first choice. But if we can't get it in a fire station or it doesn't qualify, then a hospital is definitely the next choice. But contact them and then contact us. We'll make it very simple for you. We will connect the dots for you. We'll give you everything that you need and make sure that you're comfortable walking in and explaining the entire program.
Right. So obviously you have a website. Would it be safehavenbabyboxes.com or something?
You can go to safehavenbabyboxes.com or shbb.org. SHBB is just the first letter of Safe Haven Baby Boxes. So shbb.org, or you can go to safehavenbabyboxes.com.
Okay, I see that our producer's got it on the screen. All right, and so what would the cost be? And like I think you said, communities come together and raise the funds, or what's if we're going to speak to a fire department, they may bring up costs. So what would that entail?
Cost is always the first thing they want to know because they're government funded. And so if you can go in there and say, hey, I'm going to raise these funds for you and you won't have to pay for it, that's usually the first thing that they want to know. And that's the first thing that's going to get you to step number 2. But for the community to raise the funds, we have to raise the funds for the program fee and then the installation. And the installation is kind of what we don't know, because we don't know the building. We don't know what a contractor in your city is going to charge. And so we can just give you an estimate. So what we tell communities is if you can raise between $22,000 and $25,000, you can put a baby box in your community. If you raise too much money, what we can do is a billboard campaign in your community 3 months after the box goes in to keep that in everybody's mind. Hey, that box is still here. It's still available at the fire station. So there's a lot that we can do if you over fundraise. And then if you can't find enough funding, we have a lot of people that contact us that say, hey, I want to sponsor a box. Where can I sponsor a box? And so we'll put them in contact also. So there's a lot that you can do, but I can't give you an exact price. But if a community raises that $25,000, that's pretty much going to cover everything.
Oh, that'd be great. It'd be even better if we could find a contractor who would do the installation as a charitable gift.
Yes. And we do have a lot of those that do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, what else can we talk about? So how would you? Well, I guess we would just say, go talk to your local fire department. Go talk to your local hospital, and all the information I'm sure that we would need would be on your website. And then to contact you, say, hey, we've got some interest here in San Angelo. And then you would help walk through that whole process.
And there's actually a map on our website. So if you go to shbb.org and go to the how to get a box, you can print off, it's called the roadmap. And it says, start here and you end here. And you can't miss any of these steps. You have to go from step 1 to step 2 to step 3. So it's kind of a roadmap to get to the final product of a live baby box in your community. And so we've heard from a lot of people that have done this program, and it's very simple to do. It is very consuming. I don't want people to think that it's just boom and you got it done. It is consuming because it takes time. Anytime you deal with a government agency, they have time on their hands. They have all the time you need, and sometimes it takes a long time just to get the okay from the community, the mayor or the city council or stuff like that. So don't give up is what I'm basically saying. Is if you want to do the baby box program, start from step one and don't give up until you get to the end.
Awesome.
I might mention that in our city, we did talk to the mayor, and we did discover that we needed to work with the city council, and we had a public safety committee. And once we went to the public safety committee, they were all, I mean, when people hear about this possibility, they're really excited about it. So then they suggested that we meet with our fire chief and our EMS, our emergency management systems chief, and do some other planning. And among themselves, they determined that it was the county that in our emergency management system would be the best place for ours. So that's just the process. But as Monica, as you said, it's not, if you don't do this all the time, you don't really realize, well, who do I talk to, and who should I meet with, and who should I talk to? We had formed a small group, a task force, and we had different people. I'm an attorney. We had a postpartum counselor. We had a member of the community that was kind of an entrepreneur, and we had an OB/GYN nurse. So it just happened that the four of us working on it had these interesting backgrounds that worked well. I just mentioned that in case you wouldn't have to have that background, just have the passion to bring the box.
Yeah.
And our producer asked a question about, I missed part of the question. Now I'm losing it.
Do you have any testimonies or follow-up stories on babies or parents' outcomes through the use of these boxes?
Oh gosh. We actually get contacted quite often from the parents who place their babies in our boxes, and it's a lot of times it's after. I wish they would call before, because there's so many resources that they could utilize before. But I want to make sure that every mother knows every resource that's available to them before they make a final resource, or a final decision. But there's a couple of stories that kind of come to mind. A few years ago, there was a baby placed in our box, and I think it was 21 days later, they contacted us for counseling. Now, we offer free counseling to these moms. We also offer free medical care to these moms in their community. And so she contacted us 21 days later. We got her in our counseling program. She started doing very well. And then she wanted to talk to me. And I'm not a counselor. You guys know my background. Our counselor says, well, let me get a hold of Monica and see if she can contact you, because I don't want to interfere in the counseling process at all. They have a lot to work on. And so I contacted her, and we're actually pretty good friends now.
Oh.
And so we went to dinner one time, and I had no intentions of just, there was no reason to ask this question. I was just curious. But I asked her because she was talking about standing outside the fire station and watching the firefighters move inside. And then all of a sudden she didn't see anybody, and that's when she walked up to the box. And I said, well, why didn't you just walk in and knock on the door and find one of these guys that was walking around in there and just hand your daughter to them? And what she said, it has never left me. She said, I didn't want them talking me out of a decision that took me so long to make.
Oh.
And I train firefighters. I was a firefighter. We are fixers. We are helpers. We want to help anybody that needs help. And I can see where a woman walking in, a firefighter wouldn't say, hang on a second, let's talk about this. Are you sure and it's like, these women don't want that. They want to be in control. They want to make the decision for themselves, and they want us to respect it. And so after she said that, I really started thinking, I really need to train on this. And so we actually made that a little bit of our training, is not to try to talk these moms out of this. This is not what they want. This is not what they need. What they need is support with their decision. Whatever decision they've made, we need to support that and support them afterwards.
Yeah.
And not try to change their mind. And one of the things too is, I hate it when people say, well, they should have done this. No, you and I might have done something different, but this is what they chose. And as long as it's safe, as long as it's legal, and this is their choice, we should support what they want to do.
And they chose life, which is the most important thing. And like you were saying, it took her that long to make that decision because it's a huge decision.
Yeah.
It is one that you can't reverse, like abortion is, but you don't take that long to think about that. But, so yeah, you need to support the mother and whatever she thinks is best for her. But the important thing is providing a safe place for her to go and hand that baby over that she knows that she can't take care of.
Yep.
And now I do want to ask this, Mary, real quick. So what is the process after this baby's placed in the fire station or the hospital? Do you know the rest of the story there?
Yeah, so the baby then gets obviously medical care, immediate medical care, because these babies are not born in hospitals, the majority of them. And so then they take them to a medical facility where a physician will deem them healthy. Once the baby is healthy, it depends on the state, but most states require that all babies who are surrendered under safe haven go to the Department of Child Services to be placed in their foster to adopt program. And it's a little bit easier to adopt one of these babies because they're not fighting any parents. These parents have already said, I want to surrender my child for adoption. And so it's a little bit easier for these babies to get adopted. Here in Indiana, we've actually made it quite easy for the infant to get parents. And I want to say easy for mom or easy for dad, because there's never an easy way to surrender a child when you're one of the parents. But for the babies, they're getting adopted very quickly. And we've kind of streamlined that process a little bit, which is something that I'm very thankful for. But
so did you do that through legislation, or is it just working with local people?
well, the safe haven law in Indiana was already set prior to me putting the baby boxes in place here. And so that process was already in place.
So you worked with the Child Welfare Agency, the Child Protection?
I don't work with them. And that's, I think, one of the misconceptions of what we do. We don't do anything with these infants. The baby is never transferred to us at all. And I want it that way. I don't want to be in charge of an infant going to, an adoption agency or a family, because then it might look like I'm trafficking infants. And I just don't want to go down that road.
Right.
So the fire department, whoever brings the baby to the hospital, is basically taking the baby to the hospital. The hospital then contacts the Department of Child Services. So we don't get involved in that process at all.
But I think the important thing is that the baby's taken care of immediately.
Maybe.
And will be placed in a home that's to adopt. It's not just to foster, but foster with the intention of adoption. I think that's comforting for women to know that. Yeah.
Yeah, and these babies are all, everyone that we've had come through Indiana have all been adopted. During COVID, it was a little bit longer because of the court system being backed up and everything being virtual and stuff like that. But average time for one of our babies to be adopted in the state of Indiana is, right about 6 months. And that's pretty incredible. I mean, the babies are with their forever families immediately, but the process of the court system and the paperwork and stuff like that takes about 6 months.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Monica, I just want to thank you on behalf of the mothers and the parents that have the need to surrender their babies, and also on behalf of the babies whose lives are rescued. And so it's just beautiful to hear your story of origin, and then experience, what you saw in South Africa, and then how you've catapulted that into a rescue mission for both the parents and the children. So thank you, Monica.
Thank you. To God be the glory, my friend.
Amen. To God be the glory. And I want to thank you as well. And is there anything that we haven't discussed that you want our viewers or our listeners to know before we go?
I would just say that any parent that needs to know their resources, whether it is adoption, whether it is parenting, whether it is walking into a facility and handing their child to a person, or utilizing the Safe Haven Baby Box, we want to help you. We want to walk alongside you. We're never going to tell you what to do. We're never going to tell you what's best for you. What we're going to do is give you your options, let you choose what's best for you, and then we're going to walk alongside you on your journey. And the phone number is on every baby box. It's on every billboard. It's on every literature, and it's 1-866-99-BABY-1. We've done tons of counseling. We've helped these moms through a lot of hard times. We've got some of them medical care. We've even hired attorneys for some of them. And so we are here for them, to support them in whatever they need, but we will never tell them what's best for them or what they should do.
Amen. Well, thank you so much, Monica, for coming on and talking about this incredible um, ministry that God has given you, and sharing about your story about that. And we just want to encourage all of our viewers and our listeners. You know, if you don't have a safe haven baby box in your community, hey, why not? You know, if you feel that little tug in your spirit, that means God's talking to you about doing something to help these mothers. And like I think Monica mentioned, it's not a very common thing for mothers to do, but it's an important thing to have for those mothers who are in that desperate situation, that they're going to choose life for their baby, but they know they can't raise their baby. They don't want to tell other people about this baby, but they want to have this baby to have a good life. So it's important to have these resources in these communities for these mothers. So thank you for tuning in to More to the Story with Molly White and my special co-host Mary Browning and our awesome guest Monica Kelsey. Thank y'all for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time. Thank you.